We don't need you anymore. Get out, you freeloading work-from-home slacker." Those harsh words, spat out by my sister and echoed by my parents, cut deep into my heart. "Get out!" they yelled, their faces twisted with disdain. That was the moment I realized I had had enough. I was sick of being treated like a burden. Both me and my beloved dog. If that was how they saw me, then so be it. I decided, right then and there, that I would do whatever I wanted. And that's when I started planning my revenge. My name is Lina. I'm a 35-year-old single woman, and I work as a freelance web designer. My job only requires a laptop and a steady internet connection, which allows me to work from home and set my own schedule. Many would envy a career like mine, but my so-called family never saw it that way. Instead of appreciating my independence and success, they belittled me at every turn. About 2 years ago, my peaceful life was shattered when my parents began to invade my space. One day, while I was immersed in my work, fully focused on designing a client's website, my parents showed up at my doorstep unannounced. I barely had time to process their unexpected arrival before they barged inside, eyes scanning my home with an unsettling sense of entitlement. "This house is huge. It seems like we could live here too," my mother mused, her eyes gleaming as she took in the spacious interior. "Yeah, there's even a spare room. It's such a waste for Lina to live in such a nice house all by herself," my father chimed in, nodding in agreement. Then, without hesitation, my mother made the decision that would turn my life upside down. "Let's move in this weekend." I was stunned. They hadn't even asked me. They were making decisions about my home without my input, as if I were nothing more than an afterthought. "Wait a minute. I'm not planning to live with you guys. What are you talking about?" I protested, my voice rising in frustration. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. He slammed his fist on the table and shouted, "You took over this house, claiming it from your uncle and trying to make it yours. This is ridiculous." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I didn't take over anything. I had a proper conversation with Uncle, and he gave it to me. "Stop making excuses. Our old house is falling apart. Your mother and I are moving in this weekend." "That's final," he barked. The truth was, this house was a gift from my uncle, who had always had a soft spot for me. The title was still in his name, but he had told me I could use it however I wanted. My parents, however, saw it as their golden opportunity to escape their crumbling home. They had already sold their house, claiming they had nowhere else to go, and now they were forcing their way into mine. Despite my reluctance, I couldn't bring myself to throw them out onto the streets. I foolishly agreed to let them move in, hoping we could find, but I held my tongue. "I'm doing fine for now," I replied, hoping to end the conversation. But my mother wasn't finished. "Don't talk badly about your sister. Unlike you, she's married and has a job at a company." "So what if I'm not married? I have a decent job," I countered. My mother's eyes narrowed. "You're always just playing around on your computer. You must be making money through some shady means." I clenched my fists, anger bubbling inside me. "Shady means? I'm making a living with legitimate work. You don't need to worry." "How dare you talk back to your mother? You're the complete opposite of your sister," she snapped. It was always the same, constant comparisons, endless belittling. Yes, my sister had a corporate job, but it was a temporary office position. I never looked down on her for it, but the truth was, I earned far more than she did. My parents, however, refused to acknowledge that. They simply didn't understand my work-from-home lifestyle, and instead of trying to understand, they chose to ridicule me. Then, one evening, as I was preparing dinner, something my always idle parents never did, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I wiped my hands on a towel and hurried to the door, confused. When I opened it, my jaw nearly dropped. My sister Emma stood there, lugging an enormous amount of baggage. "Emma, what's going on?" I asked, stunned. She smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in her eyes. "It's been a while, Lina. This is sudden, but I'll be living here from now on." I blinked in disbelief. "Living here? From today? I didn't hear anything about this." Emma shrugged. "Didn't Mom and Dad tell you? I got divorced." My heart sank. "Divorced?" I echoed, my mind struggling to catch up. "Yes," she said flatly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. and just like that, my already chaotic life took another unexpected turn. "I'll be relying on you from now on," Emma said, completely ignoring me as she trudged upstairs and claimed one of the empty rooms as if it were hers by right. I tried to protest, to push back against her blatant intrusion, but my parents immediately took her side. No matter what I said, they dismissed my concerns, leaving me powerless to change the situation. From that moment on, my stress only continued to build. Emma, now jobless after her divorce, spent her days lounging around, gossiping with our mother while I worked. "Hey Mom, isn't this dress cute?" Emma cooed, holding up a new outfit against her body. "Oh yes, Emma, you look so pretty. That dress will definitely suit you," my mother replied enthusiastically. "Do you think so? It's totally not something Lina would wear, right?" Emma smirked. "Well, Lina is a bit plain," my mother said dismissively. "That's probably why she can't get hired anywhere. All she does is play around online at home." "Mom, you can't just say things like that," I snapped, feeling the familiar sting of their words. This was my life, constantly compared to my sister, always made to feel like I didn't measure up. It was exhausting, frustrating, and utterly demoralizing. Even while I was preparing dinner, they made sure I could hear their snide remarks. I wanted to lash out, to yell at them, but I knew that would only give them the satisfaction they were looking for. So, I forced myself to remain silent, continuing my life without reacting to their endless provocations. One day, a friend of mine told me that her dog had given birth to a litter of 4 puppies. The moment I saw them, I knew I had to bring one home. I adopted a tiny black Chihuahua and named him Muffin. He had the most adorable round eyes, and whenever he looked at me, his tiny tail wagged so enthusiastically that it seemed like it might fall off. Owning a Chihuahua had been my dream since childhood, and working from home often got lonely. Muffin was the perfect companion to fill that void. When I brought Muffin home, I didn't bother consulting my family. After all, this was my house, and I was the one paying for everything, including Muffin's expenses. I didn't see why they should have any say in the matter. As expected, my parents and Emma started complaining right away. "Hey, we didn't hear anything about you getting a dog," my mother snapped. "Dogs are so smelly, I can't stand bad odors," Emma added, wrinkling her nose in disgust. "Lina, how could you just bring a dog home without asking us? We don't approve of this," my father scolded. I remained calm and answered firmly. "First of all, I didn't just pick him up off the street. A friend gave him to me. Secondly, I'm covering all the costs for Muffin, so there shouldn't be an issue. If you have complaints, you're free to leave." At first, they were furious. Their faces turned red with anger, and they glared at me as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. But within a few hours, Muffin's undeniable cuteness won them over. Before I knew it, the same people who had been outraged were now fawning over him. "Aren't you just the cutest thing? Who's mommy? Who's daddy? Oh, look at you, sweetheart," they cooed, showering him with affection. I couldn't believe the sudden shift in their attitude. One moment they were outraged, and the next they were completely enchanted by Muffin. From that day on, they constantly doted on him, and surprisingly, their hostility toward me seemed to lessen. Life, for a brief moment, became relatively calm. But peace never lasted long in this house. One day, while I was out running errands, my phone rang. It was Emma, and she was practically screaming into the receiver. "Come home right now," she shrieked. Alarmed, I asked her what was wrong. "It's Muffin. He did his business on my clothes. Now they stink." I sighed, already feeling the headache coming. "Just wash them, it'll be fine." "And isn't it your fault for leaving your clothes on the floor?" "What? It's my fault? It's your poor training of Muffin that's to blame?" she shot back angrily. "Enough, Emma. Muffin is still a puppy. If you take him for walks regularly, he won't have accidents in the house. You said you were excited to walk him today. Did you actually take him out?" I asked, my patience wearing thin. "Well, I was going to take him later," she muttered, clearly trying to shift the blame. "But this is all your fault for not training him properly. You owe me for the cleaning costs." When I got home, Emma was still fuming. Both my parents were there, standing beside her, glaring at me like I had committed a terrible offense. Emma, with exaggerated fury, threw her soiled, red-stained clothes at me and continued shouting. "I'm going to charge you for the cleaning costs, okay?" she snapped. I crossed my arms and glared back. Why should I pay? It's your fault for not picking up your clothes in the first place. Taking him for a walk and leaving your clothes on the floor, that's on you, I said firmly. Shut up. Don't talk back. It's because of this stupid dog that this happened. What are you going to do about it? Emma yelled, her voice shrill with anger. A stupid dog? You seemed to like him before. Isn't it a bit harsh to call him that just because of a little accident? I countered, my patience wearing thin. It's because of your poor training. Take responsibility. Emma shot back without hesitation. I was stunned by her selfishness. While I was still processing my sister's unreasonable behavior, my parents jumped in, as if on cue. Lina, shouldn't you at least apologize to Emma? My mother chimed in, her voice laced with disapproval. That's right. All of this happened because of Muffin, my father added, shaking his head. I exhaled sharply, trying to keep my composure. Can't you both just drop it already? Puppies are like babies. They make mistakes sometimes. Can't you just forgive him? But Emma wasn't backing down. This situation only happened because of this stupid dog, she muttered, doubling down on her accusations. Then, out of nowhere, she spat out something that truly crossed the line. Lina, you made the right choice by not getting married. If you had a child, I doubt you'd raise them properly. I felt a sharp sting in my chest. How dare she? My hands clenched into fists. How dare you say that? If you had taken Muffin for walks like you promised and kept your place tidy, none of this would have happened. I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. Emma's expression darkened. She raised an eyebrow, scoffed, and then, with a dramatic flare, shouted, I can't take it anymore. I don't need you or this dumb dog. Get out of this house. What? My breath hitched. Surely I had misheard her. Didn't you hear me? I said get out. We don't need a work-from-home freeloader here, Emma bellowed, her voice filled with contempt. A work-from-home freeloader? The audacity. How could someone who was currently jobless say such a thing? And who did she think was paying for all the household expenses? It was me. As I stood there, stunned by her outrageous demand, my parents joined in. That's right, Lina, leave this house. Your presence only makes things worse. You're a jinx, my father accused, his words laced with hostility. All three of them stood in front of me, their voices overlapping as they repeatedly chanted, Get out. Something inside me snapped. My anger, which I had suppressed for so long, finally erupted. I had reached my limit. If this was how they were going to treat me, then I was done. Without another word, I packed my things. Muffin, sensing my distress, stayed close by my side. With my suitcase in one hand and his leash in the other, I walked to the front door. Just as I was about to leave, Emma sneered and threw out one last insult. This is all your fault. If you had just listened to me, none of this would have happened. I almost laughed. Even now, they didn't understand the situation they were in. Trouble was coming for them, and they had no idea. Suppressing a grin, I left with Muffin, closing the door behind me. A few days later, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Emma. Her voice, usually filled with arrogance, was now trembling with panic. Lina, help. The house... She choked out. I remained calm. What happened? I asked flatly. Emma's voice rose in distress. We've been told we need to leave by the end of this month. I smirked. So? What's the problem? What do you mean, what's the problem? Why do we have to leave? She cried out, desperation creeping into her tone. I let a few seconds of silence pass before delivering the final blow. Because I've decided to sell the house. Emma's sharp intake of breath was almost satisfying. What? What? You've decided to sell it? You don't have the authority, she stammered. Oh, but I do, I said coolly. The house has been officially mine for a month now. Emma was stunned into silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. You're kidding. You wouldn't, right? Even if Uncle transferred the title to you, you can't just sell it so easily, Emma protested, her voice rising in desperation. I remained calm, my tone unwavering. I was worried about that too at first, but after you all kicked me out, I consulted with Uncle. He told me, The house is yours now, Lina. Do what you want. Get away from that family as soon as possible. No way, Emma shrieked in disbelief. Whether my parents were listening in on speakerphone or simply overhearing Emma's outburst, they quickly joined the commotion. "Lina, stop this. We have nowhere else to go if we leave this house," my mother wailed. "That's right. It's unthinkable for you to do this to your own family," my father added. "If you're a good daughter, show some respect." I scoffed, my voice eerily quiet as I asked, "Respect?" For years they had belittled me, treated me like an outcast in my own home, and now they dared to demand respect? "You've always looked down on me, constantly comparing me to Emma. But tell me, who do you think has been supporting you these past few years? Who provided you with a place to live when you had nowhere else to go?" "I did, and despite my reluctance, I let you stay with me out of sheer pity." Silence. For the first time, my parents had nothing to say. They were at a complete loss for words. I took a deep breath and continued, my voice steady but laced with finality. "And what did I get in return? You treated me and Muffin like nuisances, you constantly ridiculed me, and then you kicked us out of the very home I provided for you, trying to be happy by driving out the rightful resident? That's beyond shameless. You people deserve everything that's coming to you." My father, sensing that I was truly done with them, began to beg, "Please, Lina, help us. We're sorry." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. "I don't care." My voice was ice cold. "Fend for yourselves, you idiots." With that, I ended the call with a decisive click and immediately blocked all their contacts. Muffin, sensing my emotions, looked up at me with his round, concerned eyes. I sighed, my anger melting away as I scooped him up in my arms. "I'm sorry for shouting, Muffin," I whispered, pressing a gentle kiss to his tiny head. "It's all right now. I'll protect you." A sense of peace washed over me. I was finally free. Free from a family that never appreciated me, free from their constant criticism, free from the toxic environment I had endured for so long. Later, I heard through the grapevine that my parents and Emma had been forced to move out of the house at the last minute, despite their desperate pleas. With my father's meager income and both my mother and sister unemployed, they struggled just to make ends meet. Rumors spread that Emma was constantly being nagged by our parents to find a job, and their already fragile relationship was deteriorating day by day. Not that I cared. It was clear that their standard of living had dropped significantly since I left. But that wasn't my problem. It was nothing more than the consequence of their own actions. A classic case of reaping what you sow. As for me, I was thriving. I had moved into a beautiful pet-friendly apartment where Muffin and I could live comfortably without anyone breathing down my neck. I worked whenever I wanted without complaints from ungrateful people. My earnings were mine alone to enjoy, and every penny I spent was for my happiness. And Muffin's. Life was finally how I had always dreamed it would be. "Muffin, let's go to the dog park today," I said, glancing down at him with a smile. He wagged his tiny tail, his eyes shining with excitement. He seemed more lively than ever, as if he too could sense the peace that now surrounded us. From now on, I vowed to protect him. We would live a peaceful, happy life together, just the two of us. Looking back on everything, I've learned some of the most valuable lessons in life. Ones that I hope others will take to heart as well. First and foremost, never let anyone undermine your worth. For years, I allowed my family's words to chip away at my confidence, making me feel like I was never enough. But in the end, their opinions didn't define me. My actions, my resilience, and my success did. If you ever find yourself surrounded by people who don't appreciate you, remember this. You owe them nothing. Your value is not measured by their judgment, but by your own accomplishments and self-worth. Secondly, kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. I took my family in when they had nowhere else to go, despite knowing their tendencies. I hoped for mutual respect, but instead they took advantage of my generosity. This taught me a harsh but necessary truth. Some people will never appreciate what you do for them, and the more you give, the more they will take. It's okay to set boundaries. In fact, it's necessary. Another important lesson? Stand up for yourself. The moment I finally stood my ground and refused to be their scapegoat was the moment I reclaimed my life. I learned that sometimes walking away is the best thing you can do, not just for your own peace, but as a statement that you refuse to be treated unfairly. Cutting off toxic relationships isn't cruel, it's self-preservation. And lastly, happiness is something you build for yourself. I used to think family was everything, but now I realize that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, respect, and genuine care. My greatest source of happiness isn't the approval of those who belittled me. It's the freedom to live on my own terms with my loyal companion Muffin by my side. I now wake up every day in a home filled with peace, and that is worth more than anything. So to anyone who feels trapped, undervalued, or manipulated, know that you have the power to change your story. It won't be easy, and it will require courage. But once you break free, you'll realize that the life you deserve is waiting for you. Choose yourself, choose happiness, and never let anyone tell you otherwise.